a few other tidbits. People may want some heads up on some of these questions. The previous video we talked about doing the practice problem, which was kind of similar to question number 1 here. I mentioned, using theory to guide part of your discussion about what you think the most suitable functional form is. Here in question 2, where we have the regression results already, and it's cost functions. And again, just be aware that the regression they ran was not total cost and not average total cost. It was average variable cost. So that's the regression that was run here. And they do give you what the fixed costs are. But one of the questions that comes up a lot is this point D, and it may sound familiar to questions that I've given you in the past. And I think because I liked getting the 400 emails from everybody asking about how do I know what's happening to marginal product? All I have is the cost information. I liked responding to those questions, so I gave you another similar type of question here. So you've got this cost data, you got this regression from using the cost data, and then it says at what amount of output does labor change from exhibiting increasing returns to decreasing returns? So again, you might be like, well, how am I supposed to know about labor? All I have is the cost information. Well, you can go back and either watch the previous videos or remind yourself of why you got that question right, or if you took the assessment and got it wrong, maybe you can see the explanation of the answers for that. Let's see, over here in question 3, I got to move my picture of everybody. People ask, there's a question in your book about grocery stores and gas stations, and I think it's asking about the competitiveness. I think it says the competitiveness of grocery stores and gas stations. And sometimes students think that these two markets are sort of competing with each other. And, well, let me just get the book exactly. That's not actually what the book is asking about. It's kind of a 2-part question. How could we argue that these markets are not competitive is part A. So how could we argue that grocery stores and gasoline stations are not competitive? And a lot of students will say, well, grocery stores sell milk and strawberries and gas stations sell gas and you can't buy one of those products at the other place. Well, it's not asking you whether grocery stores and gas stations compete with each other. It's just talking about if you look at the grocery store industry in a particular city, I guess it said, in a large city, then how could you argue that the grocery store industry in that city is not competitive by itself? And then you also have this gasoline station industry in a large city, and how could you argue that the gasoline station industry in this city is not competitive? So it's not trying to get you to think about, well, how do grocery stores and gas stations compete with each other? And I tried giving a little 1-sentence explanation there. Hopefully that's sufficient, but I wanted to just mention it again. And then in part 4 here, you have this supply-demand function, and I asked you to figure out the equilibrium price and quantity, which we did way back in chapter 2 or 3, whenever that was. People will figure out a price and quantity for part A. And I said, determine the equilibrium price and quantity in this market. So it's the whole market generating an amount of output in a particular price. Because again, supply-demand is this intersection, and it determines what the price is for this product. And it gives you a quantity, but it's the quantity that all of the firms are supplying. It's the quantity that all of the consumers want to buy and the quantity that all of the suppliers are supplying. Then you get into parts B through D, and it will throw people off sometimes because they'll think about, they just had a quantity on their mind as they were solving part A. And then when they get to these other problems, which is only talking about one firm, and it's got a quantity in there, and that will suddenly start freaking them out when they try plugging in a few numbers, and it will freak them out, and they're like, this doesn't make any sense. When I use this Q and then this formula, then it's really odd. Well, remember, in part A, you're thinking about the market as a whole, all of the consumers, all of the suppliers. Parts B, C, and D, you're only thinking about one firm.